Alex, what's going on?
Nothing much. How you doing today?
I'm great, man. So we got Alex from Young Culture today, and excited to talk to you guys about your music. I've been listening, and it's fun stuff. So I interested to hear how you guys got to where you're at right now. Do you remember when you first got into music?
Yeah, totally. Like for me, it came on from an early age, and it was actually I have two older brothers, and they were both into music, and I think like that the first like band that really got me into this type of thing was like Fall Out Boy. I remember hearing like Sugar We're Going Down when I was like 6 or 7, and being like, "Whoa, this is it! Like this is
Uh-huh.
the of the all." So like
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where my musical journey really started, and then it went from like playing drums to learning how to play guitar, and then eventually learning how to sing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Fallout Boy because I can hear some of the inspiration and in the best way possible. I could hear some of that catchiness that you see in the in that early Fallout Boy stuff.
Makes sense.
So you get into music. You go out and get a guitar or you start singing. What do you do?
Yeah, well, like I was playing like drums, and I guess like I started doing like a lot of that stuff in like in church band, kind of
Mm,
like like playing in like drums in like my youth group kind of stuff. And then from there, like I was like, well, I want to like start writing songs and all that kind of stuff. So I picked up a guitar, and then I think like along with that came the singing. But it's funny because like now that's like my main thing, but it definitely wasn't always. And yeah, and I just from a very young age knew that like what I wanted to do was be in a band.
nice. How
Yeah.
so about how old was that when you started playing in church and playing music?
Probably like 10 years
Okay.
old. Yeah,
So that's like fifth grade. And
yeah,
was this in New York? You grew up in New York?
yeah. This was in Albany. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then so how long does it take for you to kind of get with a couple buds and decide you want to start playing music outside of church?
Oh man, well like it was always kind of like playing like with people like even if they weren't like are just kids. So it's like, oh, like I want you to play drums or play bass, like, and we can like play these songs together or whatever. And like that's kind of how it always was. And like nobody ever wanted to like sing, so I was always like kind of stuck doing that, which I'm grateful for because now it's brought me here.
Yeah.
But like I was always like, all right, I'm gonna be like the one singing, and like I want to like write songs and stuff. But I think like the first real like band that I did was like in 7th grade. We did a battle of the band show, and that's where I first met like our guitarist Gabe. I was like, dude, like he didn't play music at all. I was like, yo, like play bass for this like talent show at our middle school with me. And he was like, I don't know how to play instruments. I was like, it's bass, like anybody can play it. So
No
like,
offense to any bassists listening out there.
no, it's definitely not true. It's definitely
Right,
not true. Solid
right,
misconception.
right.
But yeah, no, that's how I like met him, and then from there, I've been playing in bands with Gabe ever since. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think bass is easy to pick up, but it's not easy to be good at, you know. It's one of
Oh,
those things.
totally true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so you start so you playing how'd you do in the Battle of the Bands, by the way?
Oh, dude. I
Or
mean,
the talent show or whatever it was.
yeah, it was just a talent show, dude. It was awesome. Like that was this year, first time that like girls in my grade started thinking I was cool and shit.
Yeah.
I was like, this rocks. Yeah, because we went up there and we played like we did like just a song that I wrote, and like and nobody like in the school that I went to like played music like that really. It was like a very like athletic focused school, I'd say, like public school. But yeah, like we were like the only band, and like people were like, oh, that's cool. So little Alex got some serious gratification from that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember there being any live bands playing at any talent shows at my middle school. So that's pretty cool. Um so from then on, did you kind of lean into that persona a little bit from then on? Because obviously you said, it felt a little cool. So then were you the guy in a band for the rest of middle school and going into high school?
Yeah, for like all of it, like and like that's kind of like, oh, like Alex plays music, like and whatever. And like it was just like, yeah, I was like I felt like the only kid in like my grade at least that was like into the type of music that like I'm into and whatnot. And so yeah, I've definitely felt like a bit of an outcast, but like it was cool. Like it was like my thing. And like and you know, obviously like, you know, I grow up and I can see like how many more people there are in the world like me and whatnot, which is awesome. But yeah, definitely like from there I was like, all right, this is like my niche thing, and like everybody like knows me for this, you know.
Yeah. Well, and did you say you were already singing, or were you still playing drums
Yeah, I was
at
saying
that
at
point?
this point, like I think, you know, like once I made that switch over to like playing guitar and like singing, like that became my main like vehicle over playing drums for sure.
And so did that band kind of stick together into high school, or did you kind of find a new lineup or a couple new buds once you got into high school?
Yeah, so pretty much like, you know, the band that like it originally was, you know, like we grew up, and then me and Gabe were like, well, we still want to like do music together, and all the other guys wanted to do like different things. You know, they're getting into like hardcore and stuff like that, and like
Yeah.
they all to like do that, and like that's just not what we were like good at doing or what we were about. So me and Gabe were like, okay, let's start like something that's just me and you, which is like pretty much the early reincarnations of what Young Culture was.
Mm.
Like, because we really started like Young Culture came about because we like recorded an EP under a band called Routine, and that was just pretty much what Young Culture is. And then got like founded, and like a manager was like, "Oh, I want to like send you guys out to California to like record an album," which is our first EP LP thing called You, and
Hmm.
like that like was made like when we were like right after sophomore year of high school. So like
Wow.
it's been a long time like going, and didn't really like start officially until pretty much after graduation. But yeah, like it's been building up since then, you know.
Yeah. So you're playing in high school and you get the attention of a manager, it sounds like. How did a couple high school kids get the manager of get the attention of a manager?
Yeah, it pretty much just seemed like they really thought that like we could be like the next like Disney type of like band thing, and they like believed in us in that sense. And then I guess when they kind of saw that it wasn't really that, like, you know, like the intention kind of changed. But for us it stayed the same. Like we're like, all right, like you want us to make like make music that we write, and like it's, you know, clearly like in this certain realm of music. So it's like, so from there, like we still had this album and whatnot, and like things changed, but we're like, yo, we know we're gonna put this out. Like we're still really proud of it. And yeah, I mean, it was definitely like a blessing, because I think that's what really made me realize that like I can do this like more than a hobby, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not just like I don't have to like just do this for fun. Like I can give it a shot and like maybe do this for my life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I could see that because of how young you guys were, because you're young and you're playing fun music, so it's not like it's not like your buddies who are playing hardcore music, which might be, that definitely has its place, but people may not get as excited about that. They see some young kids playing some fun upbeat music, then they're like, oh yeah, maybe this would, like you said, maybe we could go in a Disney direction or something.
Yeah.
But so it turns out you write, that whole album, You, and that dropped in 2016, so that was a few years ago now. But what happened between then and the album that you just dropped, which is we'll talk about in a second, Young Culture? Have you guys been playing a lot of shows, doing a lot of writing? I know 2020 you're not playing shows, but past few years, what have you guys been up to?
Well, yeah, I think that that was like a good like 4 years between those two things. So it's like, you know, we put out that like EPU or like LP or whatever you call it, and you know, like we didn't like obviously like didn't have like any direction. Like we had some mentors and some people like tell us like what to do, but it's like, you know, what we knew is that we were like two kids pretty much, because at the time it was just me and Gabe, two kids just graduating high school, and everybody that we knew, it's like they're going to college, you know, and like
Yeah.
that's what everybody does. And like here we are, like we don't really think that we can like do college, and we have this dream, and like but like how do you like approach it, you know? So it was a very like weird time, and like
Yeah.
just like you know, being young and like everybody's doing one thing, and it's like, I don't know. It was a very anxious time for us, but we knew that we had to like start touring. So we started doing DIY tours and all that kind of stuff. Went in and recorded another EP, and that's what eventually led to us getting like some awesome tours and getting signed to our label again, signed to Equal Vision. And then we did another EP with them, which, you know, I guess eventually brought us to this point where we just put out our first full-length record.
Yeah. So how did the label catch wind of you guys when you guys were touring? Did someone come to a show? Were you guys reaching out to people? How did that happen?
Yeah, so pretty much, you know, like they've always kind of like been on our radar, you know, like they've always been a really cool label and whatnot. And so we pretty much did our first like tour out west, where like it was like such small shows, but like I said, we put out the second EP and did our first tour, and we went out to California, and we came back and we did our Albany show. And you know, some of the people were there, and they were like, yeah, like we want to have like a meeting with y'all tomorrow, whatever. And it's the best because they're like such a great team, and they really care about us, and it feels like family. So yeah, that kind of came along in just the most natural way possible.
That's awesome. For some of those, I see this so often with DIY tours. You know, they just booking them is a feat in itself. You know what I mean? And then you know, figuring out how to market each and every one of those shows to just like people who may have never heard of you, or getting booked with a band who you know, who might help support you with some of their audience when you play this show. And not saying you guys, you know, figured it out all the way. You know, you said obviously there were some small shows, I'm sure, along the way. But what were some of the lessons you learned, or what were some of the methods that worked for you guys?
Well, you know, like you said, like you summed it up pretty much great, because it's like you're taking a risk like every single time, you know, that you try to do something like that. And like, you know, the beginning is always the hardest part. So it's like, yeah, dude, like we played a lot of shows to like two people, or like just the band. Like,
Uh-huh.
nobody.
Right.
We did all that like for years, and that's what, like that's the heavy work, you know, like that's
Yeah.
like the shit that it's like, man, like maybe someday somebody will like care, and you know, it's like it's things like that. It just takes so long, but you got to put in that work and do it, because like things just don't really fall in your lap like that. I mean, like maybe for some people it does, but that's never been the case for us. Like everything we've tried to do has been organic and tried to do it like in the most genuine way possible, you know. But like the truth is, like we're all just like kids, and we were just like trying to figure it out, like make our dreams come true. And I mean, it brought us this far, so I feel fortunate, you know.
Yeah, totally. Uh, so your label picks you up, and then you start making material for what's now Young Culture, or and the stuff that you released prior to that.
Yeah, so like somewhere between like us getting signed and like doing that tour, you know, our friend Troy, who's the third member in the band, we met him at a music camp, like when we were like, I don't know, like still in middle school, and he's from Kentucky, and he came with us and did a tour, and from there on we were like, dude, like he's like in the band. So it's the three of us, and you know, we got like a really solid just like thing going, and you know, like I feel like that's what really like solidified us as a band. You know, it's like when the three of us like got together and just like we're like, okay, like this is Young Culture, and like and getting just three brains that like all think alike but have different like perspectives, and you know, like um yeah, I don't know if that really answers the question, but like, you know, like
Yeah.
obviously, like, you know, Equal Vision saw something, they believed in us enough, and like that was like, it's crazy because to me, like getting signed, that was like, all right, this is gonna be the thing that like makes me happy, and that like I'm like, well, I know once I like get signed to a label, then like I made it. But you know, like it's crazy, you know, when you hit like one milestone, it's like,
Yeah.
oh shit, like
You just start looking at the next one.
yeah, like literally. So you know, I mean, like I always thought that would be like the end all be all, and like it definitely was like a big milestone in my life, but there's always another mountain to climb, you know.
Yeah, which is good, you know, because you know growth is great. But yeah, you should also take time to freaking be like, dude, I'm signed. You know, take time to enjoy those wins, and yeah, and then keep going. So you guys, I mean, you guys have put out this new music, and it looks like it's already getting like, great traction. It looks like you guys got on a couple Spotify editorial playlists, which is awesome. So you guys are obviously doing the right things. What do you think helped get Spotify's attention? Do you think was that your label helping you out? Was that some of the grassroots that you guys have built? Was that just a stroke of luck getting caught in the algorithm?
Yeah, right. Ah, geez. I mean, like, hard to like pinpoint it on one thing, but I would say that all those things that you mentioned definitely play a factor into it. Like, but it's funny because that's what everybody's trying to figure out. That's stuff that we're still trying to figure out, is like how to, get more of that stuff, and like,
yeah,
a lot of shows, because it's like obviously like more people hearing your music means more people at the shows, mean more people supporting you, XYZ, all the way through. And it's like, what is the magical like combination? Like, what does it take? Because I'll tell you this much, like, for me, like, I thought like growing up, I was like, getting signed to a label, like that's gonna figure out all those things. And
right.
like, and in that same mindset with other situations, but then you get to that thing and you're like, oh, there's got to be more. There's got to be something else that we're not doing.
Right.
So like, I'd say like, yeah, to like any artist that's like wondering how to do that, like, I don't know, it's like, like it really is like,
Yeah. What to artists who are thinking about getting signed or aspiring to get signed, what were some of the changes that you noticed with a label? What are some of the things that the label has been able to maybe help you guys with?
Yeah, I mean, like, well, besides just being like an awesome like support group and like family, and like just like real direction kind of, there's the money part. You got somebody who is saying, okay, like we'll give you this so you can go do these things that you want to do. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
That's obviously like a huge part of it. But I mean, also like their platform, like when you get on a label, I think, a lot of people hope that it'll get your music in some new ears or whatnot. But that being said, like, people can do it on their own like that. Like we what got us there was doing it by ourselves, and I still think like I'm really proud of that. Like I said, like, just being like teenagers and like getting noticed by a label, like when I was like 17 or 18, I was like, this is like what I've been working for this whole time, and that's something that you should never downplay, is like, is your own, self-worth and whatnot. So.
Totally. Yeah. That's why I was asking. I mean, people are doing it on their own, but a lot of people are still, pursuing labels. And so obviously I guess it's just that metaphor. They help throw gasoline on things you guys were already doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
On that fire that was already burning.
That misconception of like, oh, like you need to be on a label, like to make it. Like, I think that more and more every day is becoming like a, misconception, and like so many people can, like, especially with the internet, you can just do it on your own. But
sure. So you guys just dropped Young Culture on the 16th of October. Tell us a little bit about the songs on this album.
Yeah. So I mean, like, it's funny because this whole entire podcast, bringing it backwards, and it's like, and if anything, like, this album is just like a great reflection of like the past 4 years, since we started Young Culture when we graduated high school until this point. And these are songs that we wrote in that time. And it's like, these are songs about that. And the album is called Young Culture. And it really is just an ode to youth and like looking back on like all the things that make us who we are. Cause like, I'm 22 now, and it's like, I'm arguably like, entering like young adulthood and like trying to figure out how to like not be a kid anymore. And it's like, I felt like this was kind of my like bookmark in a chapter of like, okay, this is the end of like youth, but like Young Culture is like my life, you know what I mean? And so I guess that's just what this whole album is, and that's what it's about. It's 10 songs, 30 minutes of just like, this is us, all right. Yeah. Like, and anything from here on out is just gonna be an extension, so.
Awesome. Yeah, like I said, the songs are fun, they're catchy. So if you haven't heard it yet, check out Young Culture's new album. Hey, it was a pleasure talking to you, Alexander. If you wouldn't mind, would you grace us with some wisdom? And if you had one piece of advice to give to aspiring artists, what would it be?
Like, I know it sounds cliche, but like, don't give up and don't doubt your abilities, like, because the first step in you know succeeding is trying and doing it. And I think that's the hardest part about it too. So I'd say, you know, like, if you really want it, like, you'll be able to get it. I mean, it's going to take time and like effort. I mean, like, because there are a million other people out there that want it just as bad as you, but like, don't ever doubt yourself. And if you want it bad enough and if you try hard enough, like, I'm a firm believer that